Hey, it's Jason, and I am out here today with Zach and Chad at a dirt bottom pond project that you guys just wrapped up, and man, is it looking awesome. So Zach, tell us a little bit about the project. I know that this has been going on for a little while, trying to figure out exactly what you were going to do here, and you got it now. Looks good.
Yeah, man, it came out great. We started with a couple of pictures, just overgrown everywhere, completely just a natural pond. I mean, the natural hole that somebody had dug, and the homeowners just wanted to have this be a destination point in their house that they actually wanted to come out and look at. So when we actually came out to empty the pond so that we could get all the sludge and muck that's been building up on the bottom of this thing for the past, homeowner was guessing somewhere around 60 or 70 years ago this pond was actually put in on this property. So we got quite a few decades of that sludge buildup. At the very center, almost 4.5 feet of sludge that was just going to take years and years to actually break down.
Most people don't realize this clay is still 10% permeable. So if you lose that clay lining and you get into your soils, you're going to leak a lot more water, which is okay if you have a ton of feed, but not everybody has that several thousand gallon of water feed. So keeping the clay lining is very important in these scenarios. So when we take out the dredging, getting into the, call it like a hard pack, which the clay will give you, may or may not give you that feel. And when it doesn't, you'll stick an excavator. Things like that will happen where you don't have that hard clay lining. Dredging with dredges, putting it into bags, to where we're stacking up these large bags on a flat surface. Otherwise, putting it into a container, try to haul it off-site, which is also very costly. But when it is pumped, there's an additive that needs to go in to stabilize the material, and it gets very complicated. Where if we're able to just move it into a landscape bed or a raised mound and plant it or spread it, or this is perfect. He's got it all out over this entire lawn, growing grass and stabilized.
So we're standing over here at the intake bay, and this is what's bringing all the debris and everything over into this area. It's where our pumps are housed, and this is a really important filter. This is the area that you really got to keep an eye on maintenance and clean out. So one of the neatest things about the intake, but even all the systems that we install, is we really do the same thing on small ponds and on big ponds. It's just everything just gets a little bit bigger. So this is your big skimmer box. Instead of a plastic skimmer that would clog up all the time, we basically put it into an intake, we spread it out, we put gravel in there, and anything that can pass through the gravel will be able to pass through the pumps. But the cleaner you keep this, you could let it build up for a while, but eventually it would clog up depending on the setting and things. So the one area that you really want to keep an eye on is this area here, and at certain times of year, it's going to be a little bit more work than others. Fall time, yeah, it's going to get a bunch of leaves and all that kind of stuff. But in the spring, you really might not have any maintenance really going on here. So it's just important to check this thing. I recommend checking it once a week, scooping out the stuff that's in it, and going from there. But man, you did a really good job with this one, because it's really with all of them, you made this adjustable.
Yeah, so just so you're saying, with the smaller ones we've got with those Aquascape 1000 skimmers, we'll have an adjustable weir where we can move it up and down. So it's helpful to feed your fish. You know, we don't want things to come in. Or buy you some time for evaporation rates before topping off. This is so much wider. We didn't want to set up this big mechanical system that would take 2 people to be able to lift, and you'd have to keep an eye on the water level all the time. So what we were able to do here is actually build a self-leveling weir. So it actually follows the height of the pond. There's enough pull going over this weir that it stays just far enough below where it still skims really well, but as the water level drops, it's pulling it down with it. And when it rises up, it's not set because it's got a float underneath the liner, so it follows up and just stays fluctuating. So, I mean, I think this is probably the easiest way to handle this kind of a system, so you're not adjusting things as the water level does. It kind of handles it on its own, which really just allows you to focus on enjoying it and, of course, skimming out and, you know, pulling the debris out of your intake bay. As we pull all the water in at this point, we're sending it up to our wetland filter, and then we're sending it up to what I just call our push stream. There's a separate set of waterfalls on the other side of the dock to make sure we didn't have a stagnant area and get some really cool visuals. But there's 3 pumps powering this out. All said and done, we have 2 pumps that are pushing 10,000 gallons per hour each, and then another one that's pushing roughly about 7,000 gallons. So we have 27,000 gallons running through, circulating and turning over in this pond, which is really a good rate, and that's why we're able to see the clarity so quickly after turning these things on.
This is where the pumps are housed. This is where everything's being drawn into. Let's go check out where this water's being pumped to.
Yep, that's. Here we are.
Here we are, up at the wetland. This is where the water is being pumped to, and the way that it works is the water travels through the pipe at a very fast rate of speed. And it's so important that when it comes up to the wetland, it just slows down. So it comes through the pipe, then we have what we call a snorkel and centipede, and that's what allows all the water to just start to slow down. It's also, because that's the lowest point, any muck or debris or anything that's in there, that's where that clean out is, and it's where that buildup would happen. From there, that water slows down and just starts working its way up through the aqua blocks, eventually through the gravel and into the plant roots before it spills out over top of these awesome waterfalls that you have here where it's being re-oxygenated. Where the water has the most amount of oxygen in this entire system is actually right there at the bottom of the system. By the time it runs across the pond, through the sunlight, through the aquatic plants, works its way over to the intake bay and gets pumped back up through this wetland, right up here is where the water has the least amount of dissolved oxygen in it, and then it re-oxygenates as it works its way back down to the waterfalls. You also have some other aerators and things like that in there that's helping with some of that, but it's just it's a really neat system.
We had a lot of fun building these waterfalls. You can see, you know, we got this massive tall, we got a vantage point is about 225 feet away, so we needed to bring this thing way up just to be able to see it. And you can actually hear it from all the way over there too, which is pretty awesome. Still allowing it to be interactive where you're not having to walk all the way around this. We threw a couple of natural boulders with flat tops. You kind of step across it, which does a couple of different things. It slows the water around some spots where we put some plants in this stream to naturalize it and, you know, start creeping and doing some cool things. But it also just splits it around and gives it a little more dynamic. My favorite part about this whole thing is this piece of wood that we found out in the woods. I mean, it had a bit of a grade that we needed to kind of float this stream up a bit just to make sure that we weren't too far down. Our water levels on the natural creek beside this are really, really close to this level when we get heavy rains. So we couldn't do what we normally do, which is just kind of cut a shelf down.
You had to bring everything up.
We had to bring everything up and still try to make it look natural. So this piece of wood did an awesome job of doing it. We got little waterfalls kind of shooting off in 10 or 12 different spots on this.
Yeah, I really like the scale of the rock, how it really blends into the size of the pond. I mean, these rocks here they're big, and you can't necessarily tell how big they are because of how big the waterfall and how big the pond and all that stuff is. But bringing that stuff into scale, I really like how you did that. And then you got the stones to be able to walk in and out. It looks natural, but it's still interactive and perfectly placed that you can walk across it, but not so much so that it's like, that was put there as a step. This is really cool. I can just see the other stream from here. I know that you put another stream on there. I noticed that when I was coming up through the yard up towards their office, that one waterfall, man, really stands out. But again, you brought it back around the corner. One of my favorite parts is when you can't see every waterfall from every angle. Makes you want to walk around. Just looks really cool. But what made you even put that other stream in?
really it was the dock. We wanted to keep the dock in place, right? They didn't want to change it up. They wanted to keep it old and kind of rickety looking.
And the dock was existing, right?
Dock was existing. It was falling apart. We resecured some stuff so it was safe to walk on. But they didn't want to move it. They didn't want to do anything different. They didn't want anything too new. So we talked about maybe doing like just some jets and kind of pushing, because we're really concerned about where these waterfalls land. It's not going to curve all the way around there to get that surface tension push. But because of how far away this was, we talked about, hey, why don't we just put another little stream that's kind of coming out of the hillside. It's a much more natural topography that we're coming out of over there. So we didn't have to build up as much, which gave us that ability to, like you said, kind of force you to engage your pond and walk around to see what's going on over on that corner, and you know, how are these rocks connected. And then again, bringing the plants in, it's going to make it even more intriguing to kind of come up to these things. And
right, and like you said, you really accomplished, I mean, it looks fantastic, but you also accomplished that goal of what you're saying is you got the wetland in one area where the waterfall's coming in, and you got the intake bay in the other area, but in a way, on an angle, it's cutting off half that pond. So if you did not put that other stream in, that entire area would be a dead zone, which would allow duckweed and different floating organic materials just to kind of become stagnant over there and sit. So by incorporating that waterfall, you're skimming that part of the pond. I know you threw a couple jets in a couple areas to really force everything into the middle where this main waterfall is taking everything from the wetland over to the intake bay, and it's doing a great job skimming because of that. So it all works together. You need every one of these pieces.
Yep, and that's where time and experience and trial and error really comes into play. Before you can move a jet pump around and okay, make it work. You're going to put a waterfall in to really create that, because you can get that spiral effect where everything just sits in one area too if you don't have it placed properly. So I think everything came out awesome on this. We got here this morning and this thing was already getting covered with leaves and some of the, and if you look out, it's already starting to skim it right across.
Hey, so fantastic job on this project. It looks absolutely incredible, and awesome job.
Thanks, man. We had a lot of fun. It all came together the way that we hoped, the way that we planned, just like every other job.
If you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe. And until next time, keep building your outdoor dreams.